Keir Starmer's leadership, initially seen as a symbol of hope and change for the Labour Party, is now facing its most challenging period. While Labour celebrated a resounding victory in the July election, recent events have cast a shadow over Starmer's leadership, with increasing scrutiny on his decisions and credibility. The latest opinion poll reveals a sharp drop in Starmer's approval ratings, signaling a growing sense of discontent among the public. These numbers reflect a broader dissatisfaction with Labour's recent policy moves and the internal turbulence within the party, both of which threaten the momentum Labour had been building since the summer. One of the most significant sources of frustration for Labour supporters is Starmer's handling of the winter fuel payment crisis. Millions of pensioners, many of whom have been loyal Labour voters for years, are angered by the proposal to cut or eliminate winter fuel payments. These payments are essential for many low-income pensioners, helping them afford heating during the colder months. For these individuals, the idea of losing this crucial support feels like a betrayal by a party they've long trusted to stand up for their interests. This issue also highlights a growing divide within Labour, between its traditional working-class base and the more centrist, middle-class voters that Starmer is trying to court. Historically, Labour has managed to balance policies that cater to its working-class roots while appealing to younger, more urban voters with socially progressive platforms. However, Starmer's government has struggled to find this balance, often alienating one group while attempting to please another. The winter fuel payment issue exemplifies how policies intended to demonstrate fiscal responsibility can backfire when they seem out of touch with the day-to-day struggles of ordinary citizens. In addition to this, the scandal involving Labour leaders accepting expensive gifts, such as designer suits and high-end accessories, has further damaged the party's reputation. It's not just the receipt of these gifts that has angered the public, but the perception that Labour's leadership is increasingly disconnected from the real lives of the people they represent. This sense of detachment between politicians and voters is a recurring issue in British politics, and for Labour, the challenge of remaining relatable while governing effectively has never been more pressing. Rosie Duffield's resignation from the Labour whip last weekend delivered a serious blow to Starmer's leadership. Her resignation letter, which was both candid and damning, exposed deep frustrations within the party's backbenches that have been bubbling under the surface for some time. Duffield's accusations of nepotism and greed in the upper echelons of the party underscore a long-standing critique of Labour's leadership, that a small elite group has concentrated power and privilege, often to the detriment of the wider party. Duffield's claim that Starmer has not made a habit of regularly engaging with backbench MPs points to a broader problem in modern politics, the increasing centralization of power within political parties. The perception that Starmer is distant and detached from the broader parliamentary group has eroded trust and made it more difficult for Labour to present a united front, especially at a time when the party should be capitalizing on the opposition's vulnerabilities. This kind of internal discord is reminiscent of the infighting that plagued the Conservative Party in recent years, leading to periods of significant instability. If more MPs follow Duffield's lead, Starmer could find himself facing a full-blown crisis within his party. Although there is no concrete evidence of an imminent rebellion, murmurs of dissatisfaction are growing louder by the day. The real test for Starmer will be whether he can steer the party through these rough waters and reunite the fractured factions, all while maintaining public support. A monumental challenge when he's facing criticism from both within and outside the party. As Starmer grapples with his declining approval ratings, it's worth considering his position in comparison to his main rival, Rishi Sunak. Although Sunak is far from popular, with his own approval rating standing at -25, he remains in a relatively stronger position than Starmer in some respects. When it comes to the question of who would make the better prime minister, Starmer still leads Sunak by 9 points. But this lead is shrinking as time goes on. Sunak's leadership has been less scandal-prone recently, but his government continues to face heavy criticism, particularly over economic mismanagement. The ongoing cost of living crisis, which has hit lower and middle-income households hardest, is a constant source of frustration for the public. Additionally, the long shadow of Brexit continues to loom over the Conservative Party, with unresolved trade issues and border complications, causing further headaches for Sunak's administration. Interestingly, a significant portion of the British public remains unimpressed by either leader. According to the opinion poll, 46% of respondents said they believed neither Starmer nor Sunak would make the best prime minister. This sentiment speaks volumes about the current state of British politics. Disillusionment with both major parties has created an opening for smaller parties and independent candidates, though none have yet posed a serious challenge to Labour and the Conservatives' dominance. One of the central issues fueling the backlash against Starmer is his approach to social welfare policies. The decision to cut winter fuel payments for millions of pensioners has sparked a fierce debate, with critics arguing that the policy will disproportionately harm the most vulnerable members of society, especially older citizens who depend on these payments to keep their homes warm. Labour has traditionally been seen as the party of social justice, advocating for the protection and support of the disadvantaged. The proposal to cut winter fuel payments has, therefore, been viewed as a departure from these core values. Within the Labour Party, there has been growing concern, particularly among MPs like Rosie Duffield, that these types of policies are veering too closely to the austerity measures championed by the Conservative Party. Duffield's resignation, while driven by multiple grievances, brings to light the growing ideological divide within Labour. Her criticism of Starmer's decision to uphold the Conservatives' two-child benefit limit, an unpopular policy that critics argue deepens child poverty, has only exacerbated the tension between Labour's left-wing and centrist factions. Starmer's reluctance to overturn this benefit limit has alienated many within Labour's more progressive wing, who see the policy as a direct attack on the country's most vulnerable families. In a country where child poverty rates are climbing, Starmer's stance on this issue has been widely condemned. For many Labour supporters, this isn't just a case of poor policy making, but a betrayal of the party's very principles. Starmer now faces the daunting task of reconciling these difficult policy decisions with Labour's commitment to social justice, all while keeping the party's finances in check. Keir Starmer's leadership style has often been described as pragmatic, but some critics argue that it borders on overly cautious. His primary focus has been on making Labour electable again, following the party's series of defeats under Jeremy Corbyn. However, this strategy has left Starmer vulnerable to accusations that he has abandoned the party's traditional base in favor of a more centrist middle-class agenda. Another significant issue in British politics is human trafficking and people smuggling. The UK's partnership with Bulgaria to crack down on these criminal networks has been a bright spot in an otherwise challenging political landscape. The recent seizure of boats, engines, and other equipment meant for smuggling operations in the English Channel represents a significant victory for law enforcement agencies in both countries. This joint effort, led by the UK's National Crime Agency, NCA, and supported by Bulgarian authorities, has targeted the smuggling routes that facilitate these dangerous crossings. The Kapitan Andreou border crossing, a crucial checkpoint between Bulgaria and Greece, has been a focal point for these operations, with authorities working to disrupt the flow of equipment used for smuggling. This collaboration highlights the importance of international cooperation in tackling the global problem of human trafficking, a crime that puts countless lives at risk.